Hello and welcome to Fenton Live. I'm Brad Smith and today I'm joined by Jennifer Horton. Hello Jennifer, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How's everyone in your family? Is everyone happy and healthy?
Yeah, right now we're healthy. I have my son who's home from Michigan State and my daughter who's home from Fenton High School, who's a junior. And my husband, and we're all just kind of working in our own little spaces right now.
How's the learning going for the kids? You've got one in high school and one in college. Are they staying engaged or are you finding it difficult for them to stay engaged?
Oh yeah, they're definitely engaged and they are kind of self-starters. So that hasn't been an issue at all. And all of their teachers and professors are reaching out to them and they're doing what they need to do right now.
Oh, that's great. And you're a teacher at Tomek Eastern Elementary School, correct?
Yes, I teach first grade.
And how long have you been a teacher in the district?
I think I'm going on my 22nd year.
Wow. uh, what have you seen or noticed differently, or what have you been doing differently since the pandemic started? You know, obviously we're sitting in our homes and we can't go out to eat and our activities are very limited. What have you found yourself doing differently?
Everything. I mean, everybody's been sheltering in place. Even before that was made law, we've been just basically at home, just going to the grocery store, no friends over. We're having a lot of family time, a lot of time together, which I am very appreciative for.
Yeah, we've had the same thing with our girls are both home from school, and it's been nice to have them under the same roof, except for when things get a little out of control, and you appreciate the peace and quiet that you had previously. But I'd always rather have the kids home than to have them away.
Absolutely.
How's the distance learning going with your children or your students? You've got first graders, young children. I have to imagine that the distance learning is somewhat challenging.
Um, it is and it isn't. As far as we're in our third week of teaching remotely, and I'm using technology. We have a platform, Google Classroom, which we are, it's kind of like our springboard for all of our lessons. And my team and I have been awesome at creating Google Slides to create daily lessons, which include reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, as well as Positivity Project, which is like a social emotional development thing. So it's pretty user friendly. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. The problem is that we only have about 50 to 60% of our kids participating right now. So the biggest thing for us, I think, is right now understanding that we're not really homeschooling these. We're going through a crisis right now in our country, and the most important thing is that we're meeting their needs, and learning is also important, but just connecting with students is really the most important thing right now, and making sure that they're okay and they're well fed and that their social emotional development is happening.
Tell me more about the social emotional development curriculum that you have. That seems like it would be a really important thing right now, and I'm curious how that works over distance learning.
Well, we do something in all of the elementary schools called Positivity Project. And each week we have a focus. So for instance, this week our focus is humor. So we have these daily slides that we do with the students, and we've been doing this all year, and it's very technology based. So it's very simple for us to use Screencastify to create a video and go through the slides with the students, and there's always a video or a story that goes along with the focus. And then we use that Screencastify video to put on our Google Sheet, which then is put on our Google Classroom. So it sounds complicated, but it's really not.
So you had mentioned that about 50 to 60% of your students are engaged. For those that are not engaged, is it that they don't have the technology, or they're just not doing the assignments? Do you have any visibility into the lack of engagement?
So this week is our first week back from spring break. So at the end of the week today, or this week, which is tomorrow, I'm going to be checking in individually with parents. We have a lending system for Google Chromebooks, and I know several parents have taken advantage of that. as far as not, we have something called a check-in and a check-out. So if they're not checking in and checking out, I'm assuming they're not getting on. So right now I have about 50 to 60% doing that. And for those that aren't, I'm going to be touching base with them just to make sure that, if there's anything I can do to help them do that.
Yeah, I have to imagine that in addition to just having the available technology in the form of a Chromebook or some type of computer device where they can get online, the connectivity is also an issue and an additional expense as well.
Yeah. And I know a lot of families, one of my families, the mom is an PA and she has COVID. So she's been secluded from the rest of her family, and the dad has 3 children that he's taking care of and trying to meet all their needs educationally and everything else. And that's why I say the social emotional part of these families is more important than anything else right now. There's a lot of people dealing with all kinds of things, and we need to take that into consideration.
Oh, absolutely. And you'd mentioned nutrition and food as well. For me, that's been one of my biggest concerns with all of this is making sure that people have availability of food. We've seen in certain areas of the country where police officers, large swaths of police officers haven't gone to work, because they either had COVID-19 or were fearful of getting it. My concern has been the same around food supply, and actually more so around food supply. When I think about the impact of people not working, people who work in a restaurant, they're a waiter or waitress or a cook or a bartender or a cosmetologist, barber, a salesperson at a dealership, any of these things, these people are without income all of a sudden. There's significant economic hardship that goes along with that. And, not only just making the bills, but, making sure that there's food on the table. What has the school district done, or is there anything that you guys are doing? Because I know that so many children, they get their lunch and their breakfast at the school.
Yeah, our food service has been extraordinary. They have provided breakfast and lunch for all students, no questions asked. And they just had, the parents line up and they would put them in their cars and off they would go. So they've been doing that since the very beginning. And I believe that they're going to be continuing to do so. So I know our community is also amazing. And we have so many awesome people like Jason Warda from the barn and other organizations that have come together to help these kids and help these families. So, and currently right now we're giving back as teachers to the restaurant in Fenton, and we're promoting these businesses that always give back to us by going and doing takeout at different restaurants each day of the week. So it's definitely something where our community is totally pulling together, and it's great to see that.
That's fantastic. Now, it sounds like you guys have a really great process, and we're able to transition very quickly from classroom learning to distance learning with the Google Classroom and Classify and some of the other things you mentioned. Has the state or the Department of Education assisted with that? There have been like kind of mandates or training guides or anything that's kind of gone along with that rollout or the shift to online teaching?
Well, currently the state of Michigan and the Genesee Intermediate School District is communicating with superintendents. And then from that point, the superintendents bring it to us. Today I attended a meeting with our district leadership team, and a lot of information was given. We have a great plan in place, and our district has provided and made sure that we are all familiar with Google Classroom if we hadn't already been using it, which most of us have been. So, and that's been occurring for 3 weeks already. I know a lot of districts in the state of Michigan have not done that yet. And so I feel like as a district, we are definitely in a great place. We have a great plan, and moving forward, we'll be good.
That's great. So we talked a little bit about the social interaction, and so the kids get so much social interaction through school, and it sounds like you guys are addressing some of that through your training. Are there missed opportunities for kids during this time or things that you're concerned of that might be missed opportunities for them?
Well, I think that just through my check-ins from what the students are saying, they say things to me like, I want to go back to school, I miss you. And it's really, really hard to hear those things. And we're in a position right now that we just have to do the best that we can. One of the things that I've been doing, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback, is having Zoom meetings with my classroom. The first one was show and tell, just bring a toy. And so they each told about it. And then the next one was draw a picture of something that you're grateful for and share it, because I feel like gratitude right now should be the focus, because that's what keeps us going. And then we have a pet parade tomorrow where they're going to bring their pet or their stuffed animal to share with the rest of the class. So we're definitely connecting. We also use something called Flipgrid, and it's a place where kids can make a video of whatever they're doing, and they house it on there, and then they can get responses from their classmates about what they've shown us. So, and then we also have something called Class Dojo, which I've used all year, and it's kind of a positive behavior reinforcement, but it's also a great communication tool for parents, kids, and the kids are creating portfolios on there to share their work with me. So we have a lot of great online apps and things, some that we've been using all year and some that are new. So I'm thankful for technology for sure.
Absolutely. And first graders, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're 6 and 7 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's amazing that these kids are getting access to this level of technology and this type of communication this early in their development, especially as, if we think forward, technology is going to, change our lives, and conversations like we're having right now can be done, from anywhere in the world. And the fact that they're getting that exposure to it at such a young age, I think is definitely a positive outcome from this.
Definitely.
And
their username password is so long, and at the beginning of the school year, I was just like amazed at how quickly they picked that up to log into Google Classroom. And so if we just give them the opportunity, they will rise to the occasion for sure.
Yeah, I love the idea of the pet parade and the show and tell. I can remember very distinctly having a show and tell. I went to Tomek Eastern, but it was Eastern School back then. Mr. Tomek was the president, or the principal, excuse me. And I can remember very distinctly getting a Star Wars X-Wing fighter for my birthday when I was for Christmas when I was in kindergarten, and taking that to school for show and tell. And I was so proud of that thing. And it was, a decent size toy, but for kids to be able to reach over in their toy box and look what I got, and have another kid say, "Oh, I have the same thing," or something different, or that's cool. I think it's very cool. And the idea of the pet parade, I think, is fantastic.
Thank you.
It's very cool.
The kids really love it, and they, can't wait for the next one. So we're going to definitely continue to do that.
Those are neat things that it gives kids the opportunity to see their friends' homes too, that they probably wouldn't get the opportunity to see otherwise, or right. See differences in where people live and what's going on at their home, and probably have greater appreciation for how we all share the same space, but yet we're all individually different.
Right.
So, what lessons do you want your kids to learn from this pandemic? It's we've been shut in now for a month, and you've got one kid that is an adult, and another one that is very soon to be an adult. What do you want them to take away from this?
I just hope that all of these challenges, we're just going to become more kind, strong, and connected. I think that a lot of things that we all took for granted before, we're rethinking that, and the little things actually are the really big things. Just the fact of spending time with other people. I haven't had physical contact with my own mom and dad in weeks. I've obviously been talking to them on the phone, but I'm a little nervous with their age of being in contact with them, even though I've taken lots of precautions. And relationships are just so important, and that human contact is so important. So I know that my kids are very much appreciating everything. They want to go back to school and they want to see their friends, and those little things that, before maybe we complained about getting up and going to school. Maybe now we'll just appreciate that a little bit more. I think that everyone considers this after this pandemic is over.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned social contact, because I've been asked this question a few times, and people have said, "Hey, do you think that we'll still shake hands? Do you think we'll still hug?" And at first, my reaction was, "No, there's no way. All that's gone."
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think people will be very eager to to have that human contact, and I think it's important to be able to shake a hand, or to hug a loved one, and it's a connection, a point of connection, and we've walked this earth for a long time, and have never had any issues like we're experiencing right now, and the last one that anybody can go back to is this one, the 1918 flu pandemic. So we're a good 100 years in between these things, and hopefully it'll be 100 years before the next one, and all those customs that we know to be true, with shaking hands and hugs, and saying hello, and being able to have a conversation, within 6 feet of one another, I think will come back very quickly.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I love about our school is, when the kids come in the morning, the first thing they do is they see us at the door and they give us a hug, handshake, or a high five. And that human contact is so important. And these kids, some of them come from homes where, they have a lot going on at home, and we're the one thing that is a constant in their lives. And not being able to do that with them every day has been really challenging and really hard for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. You bring up an interesting question for me. Around structure. I've noticed my kids, sleeping in a little bit longer in most cases. Are you seeing that with your students? Are you trying to do some things to provide, kind of the same structure as the day that you had before, in terms of like meeting times and things like that?
Well, I've been kind of playing with the meetings times with Zoom, just because I know that families are on different, they have different things going on during the day. So I don't want to have it at the exact same time every time I do it, because I want to give all families opportunities if they have things going on at different times during the day. My own children have very interesting schedules right now. So they're talking to their friends late at night and sleeping in.
Yeah, it's easy to do. Yeah. I've worked from home for a long time, and one of the things I learned early on was to maintain a decent sleep-wake schedule, because it gets very easy to stay up late and sleep in early, or to sleep in, and before you know it, you can waste a day.
Right.
Jen?
With my students, I post my lessons the night before, so they can do it whenever they want. And if they need to take breaks in between the little lessons that we're providing, that's pretty much up to families to determine what works for their schedule.
Very good. So Jen, I have one last question for you. What do you look forward to doing most once we get the all clear, and we're back to normal?
Oh my goodness, so much. Hugging my friends and my family. I think that's going to be the first thing. I'm excited to go back out to the restaurants in the community and get them back to where they were. And I just want to spend time with people, and hopefully getting a good night's sleep and not worrying about the fate in the economy, fate of the world and the economy. I think that's my biggest worry right now, is our economy and what will happen at the end of this. But honestly, doing my job is a gift. There's so many people out there, like first responders and nurses and custodians, mail carriers, grocery store workers, who are going out every day worried about their health. And I'm just so thankful for those people that are doing those things right now. So I'm excited to see friends and family again.
Yeah, I think we all are, and it's funny. Every time I go into the grocery store, every person I walk past, I thank them for working.
Mhm.
I know people have to work, and I'm sure given the circumstances that a lot of those people would prefer to stay home and not run the risk of exposure. But they're doing an important job. I mean, food supply is the most important thing right now, given that most of us, are not ill or going to become ill from this, and so we need to make sure that the food supply stays intact, and those people that are working in food supply, as well as those that are working in healthcare and the first responders, are definitely the people that deserve all the awards and accolades, and I think people recognize and appreciate that.
Yeah, they're really true heroes. I found myself thinking the garbage man as I was doing my run the other day, and the mail carrier, and you know, it's hard not to feel guilty when you see other people doing the jobs that they're doing. Um, I'm doing my job, but it's just different. I'm really thankful for everyone that is doing the things that they are for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. And Jen, I'm thankful for you to take the time to speak with me tonight. I know you've got your family at home, and for you to carve out some time to speak with me, I greatly appreciative of that.
Oh, you are welcome. It was great to, thanks for having me.